Welcome to Visualization Learning Session. Today we'll be talking about strategic use of contrast. Let me start with the book called Information Visualization Question for Design by Colin Hoover. In that book, there's a quote about a story about flying hawk among a flock of pigeons. When there's a flock of pigeons and there's only one flying hawk, you can easily spot that flock. We can easily spot that hawk. But what happens if there are pigeons and other type of birds? Will it be easy to spot the hawk? Think about it. No, it will be difficult to spot the hawk. And that's exactly what the concept of visualization is. We have to, if you want to present something to the user, we have to make it contrast with the rest of the data. And this lesson, you will learn how to apply contrast to your visualization. So let's get started. Here, this is a data table, and this is a fictional data table of six colleges, universities across the United States. This data represents a comparative study of survey results of five categories: job placement, campus life, university availability, and course availability. Among these categories, we are provided some numerical values. These are not actual values, but they are the index values. We scale index values. The lower number is the worst performance, higher number is the better performance. Now, our job is to, my job is to graph this data. So here's a sample graph I did. Now look at this graph and try to think what you see in this graph. Take a moment. Now let me give you my take on what do I see when I see this graph. In this graph, I see that there are lots of data points. It is cleanly laid out. But if I look at the yellow data point, what I see is that it is below, all are below 0. And not only that, I'm interested in the blue diamond, which is ours, and it is not evident. It is not clearly evident. Some it is mushed up with other data sets, and some it is isolated. So I can see that, but it is not clear. So definitely, interesting is a not really clear data. Interesting doesn't mean it's clear. How do you feel? Now let me ask you another question. How do you feel about this graph? Do you think it is effective or not effective? What do you think? Think about it. It's, it's perfectly okay to say it's not effective because I think it's not effective too. Because what I said earlier, that data is not clearly visible to the user. It is not well contrasted for the user to easily understand the data. Now, next question is, does it meet the threshold of Gestalt principle that we discussed in the last lesson? Does it meet that? Think about it. It does not, because as I said earlier, data is not clearly visible. Now, we have our data point called ours college, and it is very similar with other data set. And it's not, you can exactly distinguish that from other data points. So that's why this doesn't meet the Gestalt principle. And there are some flaws to it, and I will show you how to improve that, how to overcome those. And there's a better way to do this graph, and it doesn't take much more time. And let's get to that. This is a better way to do it. This is a performance overview across five categories, and you will see that this graph integrates the Gestalt principle and research around cognitive load and discussion around eliminating clutter and minimizing the cognitive load. And this graph is way better than the one we discussed earlier. We shouldn't expect users of visualization to know data well as you do. Knowing data is your job. The users who use the visualization should be able to quickly use the visualization to do your job correctly and fastly. In the end, let me quickly summarize what we learned today. What we did was we what we did was we talked about we took a data set which was a mock-up data set and it was an index data set and it compared data among several colleges among for a certain kind of categories. Of course, we don't even get a full data. We never get a full data from the survey because people don't want to reveal the actual value of their schools. So they just give the index data for comparison purposes. And one thing we can do is we can reindex the data for our purpose to make it easier to understand. And here is some reindexing I did. Maybe you can try your own and we can discuss about in our next session. Thank you very much. Have a good day.